Okay, so I would like to highlight a few things, like the 10 to the 50th power being something that's impossible, that is 9.99, however many more nines we need, to the 49th power possible. It seems like when you start throwing numbers into these finite concepts that tend to have a non-finite context to them, it doesn't really work for me, in my opinion. You mentioned personal being, and you did say, like, this is not necessarily, this is something that's internal for you, that it is something internal for you. I definitely go with that most of the time when I ask someone, particularly a Christian, because that's the type of faith that I'm generally exposed to, that when I ask them for evidence for their belief in God or God's existence, period, a lot of times I get the personal experience type of answer. And their personal experience of something is not evidence for me. My personal experience of not needing a God is not evidence for them. Experience is not evidence. And you could have a testimonial for someone for a crime case that's trying to identify someone, and they could identify the entirely wrong person. But based on their experience, that person was the one who committed the crime, even if it is false. So experience is not evidence.
Subjective experience, inner experience, I'd agree.
Okay, well, you also talked about, like, the cause and the beginning of the universe, and that something that has a cause necessitates the existence of God, or something that has a beginning. I might not be quoting it properly, but let me just go with what I'm saying, that the general point I want to make is that if God created the universe because the universe required creation, then who created God? And then we could be like, well, then who created that being? And usually the answer is, well, God is what does not need creation. Well, why don't we cut a step out of that and just say the universe doesn't need creation? I mean, there's no evidence to say that.
The scientific evidence that it started at a finite point is overwhelming.
Maybe, but we don't. But science will admit that we do not know. We do not know what happened before the moment of creation, and religion claims to, but there really is no evidence outside of the Bible for the validity of that claim. And so to say that science thinks they know the origin is actually untrue. We just have a very thorough amount of evidence to support what happened afterwards, and that it appears that it started with some sort of maybe explosion, if you want to call it, which is not really the best term for it, that resulted from an expansion from a central point, because we see the evidence of expansion today. Again, it's one of those things where we create a theory around the existing evidence. We didn't come up with this, I think the universe started with a Big Bang, now let's look for evidence for it. No. Hubble discovered that every galaxy is moving away from us, and that the further away a galaxy is, the faster it is moving. I won't go into more details as to the evidence that supports that right now, because I don't have time, but that's how the theory of the Big Bang theory came about. But science will admit we do not know what happened at the moment of the Big Bang or what happened before. Okay? As far as, like, saying about the chance of proteins in cells coming about, there is nothing in evolutionary theory, as the theory actually is stated today by the majority of scientists, that would say that these numbers by chance have anything to do with the theory of evolution. A cell doesn't by chance just form itself today. Evolutionary theory doesn't say that's how it happens.
I was talking about the original cell.
Doesn't matter. It would still be a slow process. There are still chemical reactions. There are still physical laws. There are still ways that things form that based on law and not chance. And I want to highlight one particular thing where if you say that a protein forming by chance is so improbable because it has structure and purpose in nature and things like that, then and say that a being had to have created this seemingly so useful thing and so beautiful in its structure, well then, is God creating every single snowflake that falls? Because that has structure. Boy, the chance of a perfectly symmetrical water solid forming in that way, that seems so unlikely. But there are physical laws that we know of.
The structure in that is trivial compared to the structure in a protein.
I still think it holds to my point, though, that chance is not the issue. It's law, natural law.